What's up guys, this is Rich, and today we're going to take a look at the P90 installation. We have a King Arms P90 here we're going to be installing in, and first we're going to take a look at what comes with the P90 kit. You have your HYDRA cylinder with the P90 pre-bent airline here, P90 nozzle. You have standard 14-inch wiring harness, and you have our universal wiring kit. So we're going to take a look at this, go through the parts that are included, what you need, what you don't, and then we'll take a look at how to install it. You have 2 leads, you have a jumper board, a piece of 1-inch heat shrink, and you have a diode, and those are all the parts you're going to need for the P90 installation. These other pieces, if you were using this kit on the Thompson, you would need. So that's a little piece of heat shrink tubing to go on the posts of the selector switch here. The selector switch itself, a little self-tapping screw, and a drill that sized correctly for the drill bit sized correctly for the self-tapping screw. But none of those are we going to need for the P90, so we'll set them aside. How this is going to work basically on the P90 is we're going to solder into the existing switches here. So the P90, and this is basically the same on the F2000. P90 has 2 switches on it. It's a 2-stage switch. You have the primary trigger switch here. You have the secondary switch down here. What we're going to do is we're going to use the secondary switch, which is these 2 contacts here, as our selector switch. The primary switch up here as our trigger switch. The diode, we'll show you how to wire in a minute. That will be wired in such that when the secondary switch is activated, both the trigger line and the selector line are active. And that's because these triggers has a tactile disengagement of the cutoff lever of the switch here. If just this switch is contacted, you need it to activate both lines. So let's go ahead and solder these in and take a look at how that works. Alright, so we got the stock wiring off. I think you'll find that it's easiest to simply cut the wires here, as there's a big block of solder that's really difficult to fully melt without melting the plastic behind it. And then you can desolder from the points in here. Now, we are going to go ahead and solder in the leads to the switches. So I'm going to go ahead and tin my leads, and I'm going to put the black one over here. And the red one over here. Okay. So that's my primary switch, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the secondary switch. Got a little flux on there. I'm going to put the red wire right here. Said those big blocks of solder can be kind of frustrating to deal with, but you got to get it in there, get it fully melted, and then just wait for it to cool. Okay, there we go. Get this one over here. Alright, now the last step is our diode. Diode comes with these white and red tabs on the end. The end with the red tab is going to go with the red wire on the secondary switch. Side with the white tab is going to go with the red wire on the primary switch. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and kind of bend it around so it probably will line up okay. Clip off the extra. If you forget, the end with the red tab is also the side with the little white cap on it. And now we're going to go ahead and solder that in. We're going to tack this end in. Run that up. the other wire is. And then we're gonna tie those together. Okay? So, that's what we got. Now, when we put this together, we're going to plug the wires going into our secondary switch here. We're going to wire that into the port that says selector switch on the jumper board. Just plug that bad boy in. Primary switch goes in the trigger switch port. Plug the wire harness in. Plug our FCU in. Plug in the HYDRA. So go ahead and plug the battery in. So there we go. At this point, it's really just a matter of putting the HYDRA in. You can see where the pre-bent line comes in handy. And we're going to go ahead and unplug everything. So we're going to put the HYDRA in, close it all back up. So then the switch mechanism goes on there. Jumper board will stick right where the motor cage goes, right in there. You can see we cut out this section of the motor cage to allow the air line to pass through. We're going to go ahead and put this all back together, and then we'll show you how to install it in the gun. Okay, so we got this all back together. You can see we put the heat shrink around all the board and the wires here just to keep everything tight so wires don't get pinched. That just sits right in the motor grip area. Again, you can see the area where we cut a little bit of material out of the motor grip and where the line comes out. Everything works. We drilled a 1/2-inch hole right here in the stock. A good trick is to use a magnet to find where the body pins are. You don't want to hit one of the body pins with a drill bit. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start the line through the hole. Everything just goes back together like the normal gun. You're going to put your back plate on. The FCU cable goes through there like that. FCU gets stored up in the battery compartment up above the gearbox. And everything at that point is just like reassembling the AEG. So thanks for watching.